Papa's big tumbler, and put it beside my tiny thimble. Then, filling both with water, she asked me which seemed the fuller. I replied that one was as full as the other. It was impossible to pour more water into either of them, for they could not hold it. In this way Pauline made it clear to me that in heaven the least of the blessed does not envy the happiness of the greatest. And so, by bringing the highest mysteries down to the level of my understanding, she gave my soul the food it needed. Joyfully each year I welcomed the prize day. Though I was the only competitor, justice was none the less strictly observed, and I never received rewards unless they were well merited. My heart used to beat with excitement when I heard the decisions, and in the presence of the whole family received prizes from Papa's hands. It was to me like a picture of the Judgment Day. Seeing Papa so cheerful, no suspicion of the terrible trials which awaited him crossed my mind. But one day God showed me, in an extraordinary vision, a vivid picture of the trouble to come. My father was away on a journey, and could not return as early as usual. It was about 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The sun was shining brightly, and all the world seemed gay. I was alone at the window, looking on to the kitchen garden, my mind full of cheerful thoughts, when I saw before me, in front of the wash-house, a man dressed exactly like Papa, of the same height and appearance, but more bent and aged. I say aged to describe his general appearance, for I did not see his face as his head was covered with a thick veil. He advanced slowly, with measured step, along my little garden. At that instant a feeling of supernatural fear seized me, and I called out loudly in a trembling voice, "Papa! Papa!" The mysterious person seemed not to hear. He continued his walk without even turning, and went towards a clump of firs which grew in the middle of the garden. I expected to see him reappear at the other side of the big trees, but the prophetic vision had vanished. It was all over in a moment, but it was a moment which impressed itself so deeply on my memory that even now, after so many years, the remembrance of it is as vivid as the vision itself. My sisters were all together in an adjoining room. Hearing me call "Papa," they were frightened themselves, but Marie, hiding her feelings, ran to me and said, "Why are you calling Papa when he is at Alençon?" I told her what I had seen, and to reassure me they said that the nurse must have covered her head with an apron on purpose to frighten me. Victoire, however, when questioned, declared she had not left the kitchen. Besides, the truth was too deeply impressed on my mind. I had seen a man, and that man was exactly like my father. We all went to look behind the clump of trees, and, finding nothing, my sisters told me to think no more about it. Ah, that was not in my power! Often and often my imagination brought before me this mysterious vision. Often and often I tried to raise the veil which hid its true meaning, and deep down in my heart I had a conviction that some day it would be fully revealed to me. And you know all, dear Mother. You know that it was really my father whom God showed me, bent by age, and bearing on his venerable face and his white head the symbol of his terrible trial. It seems advisable, on account of the vague allusions which occur here and elsewhere, to state what happened to Monsieur Louis Martin. At the age of 66, having already had several partial attacks, he was struck with general paralysis, and his mind gave way altogether. As the adorable face of Jesus was veiled during his passion, so it was fitting that the face of his humble servant should be veiled during the days of his humiliation, in order that it might shine with greater brilliancy in heaven. How I admire God's ways! He showed us this precious cross beforehand, as a father shows his children the glorious future he is preparing for them, a future which will bring them an inheritance of priceless treasures. But a thought comes into my mind. Why did God give this light to a child who, if she had understood it, would have died of grief? Why? Here is one of those incomprehensible mysteries which we shall only understand in heaven, where they will be the subject of our eternal admiration. My God, how good Thou art! How well dost Thou suit the trial to our strength! At that time I had not the courage even to think that Papa could die, without being terrified. One day he was standing on a high step-ladder, and as I was close by he called out, "Move away, little Queen, if I fall I shall crush you." Instantly I felt an inward shock, and, going still nearer to the ladder, I thought, "At least if Papa falls I shall not have the pain of seeing him die, for I shall die with him." I could never say how much I loved him. I admired everything he did. When he explained his ideas on serious matters, as if I were a big girl, I answered him naively: "It is quite certain, Papa, that if you spoke like that to the great men who govern the country, they would take you and make you king. Then France would be happier than it was ever been, but you would be unhappy, because that is the lot of kings. Besides, you would no longer be my king alone, so I am glad that they do not know you." When I was 6 or 7 years old, I saw the sea for the first time. The sight made a deep impression on me. I could not take my eyes off it. Its majesty and the roar of the waves all spoke to my soul of the greatness and power of God. I remember, when we were on the beach, a man and woman looked at me for a long time, then, asking Papa if I was his child, they remarked that I was a very pretty little girl. Papa at once made a sign to them not to flatter me. I was delighted to hear what they said, for I did not think I was pretty. My sisters were most careful never to talk before me in such a way as to spoil my simplicity and childish innocence. And because I believed so implicitly in them, I attached little importance to the admiration of these people and thought no more about it. That evening, at the hour when the sun seems to sink into the vast ocean, leaving behind it a trail of glory, I sat with Pauline on a bare rock, and gazed for long on this golden furrow which she told me was an image of grace, illumining the way of faithful souls here below. Then I pictured my soul as a tiny bark, with a graceful white sail, in the midst of the furrow, and I resolved never to let it withdraw from the sight of Jesus, so that it might sail peacefully and quickly towards the heavenly shore. End of chapter 2.